Hey everybody, welcome to my channel, and so this is just gonna be a new video series I'm gonna start. All the other videos on my channel, I'm sad to say, is going to be, how do I put this, in simple terms, done. So, the reason why I'm not gonna be doing a part 2 of What If Deku Was Deadpool is because I'm gonna be redoing it, because I didn't really like it, how I did it. Same for all the other series, so I'm gonna be redoing them as well. But I kind of hope you guys like this new series I'm going to be starting to do, and I hope you guys like the new style of how I'm going to be choosing to do my videos. Don't worry, if you guys don't like it, I will change back, but I want to hear your opinions on it first. So this video is going to be my first return video out of a long scripted time of videos that are going to be coming soon, so yeah. So let's get into What If Deku Was a Hired Gun, or a hitman. We start off with Deku at the age of 5. Now, it's been about a year since I've seen the anime, so please don't shout at me if I haven't gotten all the events right. But you guys can tell me down in the comments if I'm right or wrong. Anyways, as Deku was sitting around in his house watching TV and a video of All Might saving people from a disaster, he looks at his mom and tells her that he wants to be a hero just like him. And he's all happy and cheery, like usual Deku. But Eiko just ignores him and just talks to his sister. His sister, her quirk activated about half a month before the usual time that quirks usually manifest. About a month before her birthday. And Deku never really got his quirk activated yet. But he was still hoping and gleaming, full of hope that he might get it. So as he was just sitting there, and he just lowered his head in kind of sad state, he looked back at the TV and was all struck by just All Might carrying the people out of the disaster. After a month passes, they turn their usual age of 5. Remember, don't get me wrong on this. But they turn 5 and they go to get their quirks assessed, and his sister has a strong quirk of telekinesis, such as a psychic, like Mob Psycho 100 or Tatsumaki or Terrible Tornado from One Punch Man. So her abilities are going to be on their level, but I would say combined, so they can both have their same abilities. While Deku's ability is called... give me a minute for this name. Yeah, give me a second. His quirks can be called Homing Shot, which doesn't sound like a good quirk, but it's gonna come in handy for this soon. His quirk is kind of unknown, because no one's ever had a quirk like this before. The closest one is to Pro Hero Snipe. But that's it. Snipe's the only Pro Hero that's even come close to it, but Deku's is way advanced. The doctor tried figuring out and running tests on Deku, but he needed the mother's consent, which she didn't really care for. She just gave him over willingly, just handed him over, signing the papers saying, "Go ahead and experiment, it's not my problem." And she just picked up her daughter and walked out, leaving a destroyed and crushed Izuku with a sad face. Izuku, in the meantime, was frightened that the doctor gotten out his gloves and put them on, as he looked over at Izuku with a terrifying face, just gleaming full of terror and malice. The aura radiating off the doctor was kind of terrifying for Izuku. He could tell that this doctor was not just going to experiment on him. He was going to torment and turn the boy into something that he wanted. Something that a certain supervillain really wanted. A weapon of destruction. To kill the one pro hero that stood in his way. The next couple of years went by. 2 years. Deku's gone missing. His case has been dropped for about a year and a half. His sister kind of crushed because she's the only person that ever cared about Izuku. She wouldn't look like it, but she would secretly go to him and talk to him whenever his mother was never around. Mainly because she was his twin, and she felt a strong bond to him. And she never wanted to leave him, especially how she watched his mother treat him. Another year goes by, 3 years, Izuku's been missing. We can see a noticeable change in Izuku Midoriya. His hair, instead of being an emerald green like it usually is, turned into a dark, pitch black with a maroon highlight in it, going across his face. His hair got noticeably longer, instead of afroed out like a puffy kind of state like his hair now. His hair covers one eye after a training session gone wrong and made him blind in one eye, but never disabled his quirk. Well, quirks, that is. He has gotten multiple quirks. One of them is robotic size, which may sound weird, but what it really does is if one of his body parts gets cut off, he's able to stop the bleeding process, throw on some mechanical parts onto it, and it becomes his new body part, essentially creating a human cyborg on the spot. But he's never gotten that part before. He's never gotten that far before of losing limbs or losing body parts. The only extension is a scar over his eye, making him blind, which never regenerated for an unknown reason. And the other quirks he has besides regeneration and that robotic quirk, which they didn't really like, but they had to give it to him anyways, was autoscope. Instead of placing any scope on a weapon, his eye automatically zooms into the level he wants it. It can go from a normal 2 times all the way up to an advanced 100 times zoom. Advanced, right? But it comes with a purpose with his original quirk. The other noticeable changes is that he's gotten bulkier. He's gotten taller as well. Not noticeably taller, but just a tiny bit. His body's covered in scars from laceration marks from training, burn marks from training as well, but also torture from the doctor, trying to figure out how the human anatomy works when a quirk is changed on the spot. Not by another quirk, but by human genetics forcibly being put onto the DNA strand of the amino acids. Deku was in a lot of pain and he mentally broke. He's emotionally unstable, considerably having a multi-personal crisis right now, also known as, well, identity crisis, which, multiple identities of the same person, different attitudes, emotions, and character stimuli and character abilities. One full of rage, unsettling rage and fury. On the other hand is the sad, not wanting to do anything immobile Deku. He's very changing on the color of his eyes. His eyes were the noticeable part that changed as well. Instead of his emerald green eyes that he got from his mother, they changed into a bloodshot red, a deep crimson shine to him, as well as a dull to it as well, from the loss of emotion. On his 4th year, he would be in middle school. He's already as smart as a high schooler would be, maybe even smarter, on par with the principal of AU, Nezu, at fact. And he was set free into the world. The doctor has been fired from this villain for constructing on the boy too much, trying to make him too strong, as the villain's words would say. So, we cut to Izuku Midoriya sitting on the roof of a tall building, just leaning back, sitting onto the railing in a water tower behind him, making it feel like he's on a weird position chair. He sits there, the wind just blowing in his hair, and he just stares over the horizon watching the city as he sees this big bulky man jump into the air with another person attached to him.
He takes his hands and he puts it into a cupping motion, like a binoculars, but a telescope kind of motion onto his face. He puts it up to his good eye and he twists it and makes it zoom, giving it the effect that it actually is zooming, when really he's just blinking and it zooms in. He sees that it's All Might and another green-haired girl with emerald green eyes. Izuku Midoriya stared at the greenette and just wondered to himself, who is she? I feel like I've seen her before, but I don't remember. He just sits there and watches the events unfold as he pulls out, and don't do this at home, but he pulls out a cigarette, he lights it, and he just sits there and just watches the scene unfold. He puts his hands to his pockets and put them into his long trench coat, covering up most of his body. He has a hood on his face and what seems to be a gas mask, kind of respirator on his face, covering up his mouth and his nose. He doesn't have a pair of goggles on so he can see, but he also does have a type of ski mask on. But the part that's covering up his nose and his mouth for the gas mask to be. He also has a hood on his head to cover up his head just in case, to give him as little visibility to others as possible, making him more mysterious. The colors were a pitch black with a highlight of red, and a red symbol on the back that looks exactly like a certain symbol that'll be shown in the future, depending on your choice. As Deku's just sitting there watching, he keeps thinking of where he's seen her, and then all of a sudden, poof, All Might goes into his Small Might form, his true form, right in front of the child's eyes. Him and the girl had the same exact reaction of stunned, curious, and disbelief. He pulled out a pistol and aimed it right down until he sees the funny reaction of the girl. She starts to levitate and just levitate and levitate until she gets up about 2 stories in the air, and then she just falls down, and then she just catches herself with her quirk again and lands. This intrigues the greenette this intrigues Deku even more as he just sits there, puts the pistol away, and just watches. The last quirk given to Deku, inventory. I know there's a lot of people that give him inventory, but this inventory is different. It works as a type of magical bag. He can reach into any type of conveniently covered pocket, such as behind his back, unseen to the human eye, and can pull out anything he wants. All he has to do is just think about what he wants when he reaches behind his back. A small little wormhole of sorts opens up and he can grab the item. The item has modifications on it already, such as if he pulls out a 9mm, it has a full-on suppressor and a infinite ammo mag on it. I know, cheesy, right? Call of Duty cheats, what are you gonna do without them? But he put away the pistol, disappearing back into his inventory, as he just sits there and just stares, and just keeps watching. As then he decided he had enough, and he just holds his eye closed, his good eye, and he opens it up and it's back to normal vision. As he looks down and he sees that there's a scene going on, and he just jumps. He puts his hands to his side and his legs close as he opens them up, and the suit turns into a glide suit. As he just flies off into the horizon, landing onto a abandoned construction building, the project long uncompleted, his home base. As he goes into one of the rooms that was fully finished, but the walls were up only, the walls and the ceiling and the flooring. The doorway's still open, but he figured a way to conceal it to make it look natural. As he walks in, he looks and he sees all of his stuff. He sees his cooking utensils, a little campfire in the middle, a small little sleeping bag in the corner, and something you would never expect. The one picture of his family, the one thing that he loved and cherished the most, his sister. I will let you choose her name, because I don't really want to come up with a name for her right now. I don't really feel like it. But her, he just scratches out the picture has his sister and him with a heart over it, and it says BFF / best family ever, and it has the mother crossed out and scribbled out as she looms over her two children. The one time that he actually loved her in that picture, he regretted ever calling her mother, but he still loved his sister forever. He would never forget her, but he doesn't know what she looks like all grown up. He doesn't know what happened to her in her future. He doesn't know if he was a good brother to her or not. All he knows is that adorable little sister he had could have forgotten about him. He doesn't let that thought cross his mind as he just sets down his rifle that he had slung across his back, lays it down on the wall with the barrel facing upwards just in case, and then he takes out the pistol from his back that he had holstered on him originally, takes out the magazine, sets it on the table, the magazine facing up, and then the weapon just sitting on the table. He lays down with the lantern lit up in the middle of the table, and then he lights up the fire and he pulls out a can of beans from his back. He opens up the can of beans with a can opener from the table that he had just sitting there. A perfectly unused can opener. And he just opens up the can and just cooks it over the fire with a pan. He decides to just munch on it as he's just sitting there looking up, just staring at the ceiling when he's done. He thinks, I think it's time for me to pay a visit. And I think it's time for me to get a job again. It's been about 2 months since I've had my last hitman job. I'm ashamed of it, really. The last job I had. As he just sits there in silence as he thinks about his last job. His previous job was his most paid contract. It was $100,000 USD. Or if I had to say, it was about 2.2 million yen. I'm not really accurate with that, but let's just go with that. He accepted the contract, unwilling to know what it was. He just needed the money for purposes of getting through life. As soon as he stepped up to the contract area and he looked down the barrel of the gun, he was stunned to see what it was. He was stunned to know that the one thing he was about to do was going to scar him for life, and he would never live it down. That or he gets a bad reputation and never gets good contracts ever again, never making a living for himself. He looked down the barrel of the gun and about to fire until he notices something sad. The kid gets hit in the face by the mother and the father, beaten down in the alleyway. So he aims down the sight and he says to himself, I'm sorry, kid. I'm gonna help you out here once. I hope you'll forgive me. As he pulls the trigger once, pulls the bolt back, reloads into the next round. The round slipping into the chamber as the empty shell slides out. As he aims down, he says, boom. As the shot rings out, gliding through, going through a lamppost, just coming out the other end, the barrel twirling in the air, dancing as is an elegant shot, taking out the person behind the lamppost with an elegant dance of death, going right for their eye, coming out the other side with a big explosion of blood and mist coming out. He picked up the gun, taking out the magazine and the last bullet in the chamber, sliding them both into his inventory, sliding the rounds into his pocket, slinging the rifle over his shoulder, closing up the sight. The child just sits there traumatized by his parents' death. As he looks up and he sees the mysterious person in robes hop off the roof going in another direction. The kid starts crying and crying as no one comes to save him as the rain starts pouring down. Deku covers his face and he puts on his earmuffs to drown out the sound of a child's cries for his parents' death. We come back to Deku laying on the bed, trying to get some sleep, shuddering at the thought of his lost contract. As he falls asleep, we come to a dream of Deku, sitting there thinking to himself of the monster he's become, the one thing he never desired to become, and he's become that, living flesh and blood, a villain, a vigilante, a lawbreaker, and the most one thing he hated, a monster. He became the one thing he feared of the most in the night, the one thing that crawls under children's bed and is a legend. He became that, and he showed it with his contract. The next morning, Deku wakes up and he hears alarms. He hears sirens. But he sees next his pro heroes in the building, and they're looking for him. He doesn't know how they found him, so he packs up his guns and he packs up as much stuff as he can carry. Shove it all in his inventory. Grabbed a pair of normal clothes, put it... Excuse me. Grabbed a normal pair of clothing and threw it in his inventory to grab for later, as he hopped out of the building and glided, landing in a near alleyway as he just watched the heroes search for him. As the police sirens rang in the distance, he knew he was trapped. He was cornered in a block, a mile in each direction. They set up the perfect barrier, the one thing to keep him trapped. They got the sewers covered so he couldn't go underground. They got the air covered by choppers so he couldn't jump up on roof to roof. They had hundreds of units. They had hundreds and hundreds of units searching the floor, looking for him as he speaks. And all he hears is just a thump from what he thought would have been something falling, but it was actually him. A couple hours later, he wakes up, tied to a chair, in what seems to be a holding cell for an insane asylum, but really it's just an underground jail cell, an observatory for him. His own enclosure. The person walks into the cell and pulls a chair right in front of him as he's still tied down and sits across from him. It's All Might, this skeletal person for him. All Might's asking him a question. Who are you? And what were you doing in that building? Now here's your choice, everyone. Here's the first choice of what you can do. Your first three choices. Your first choice. You can answer him honestly with your name. Izuku Midoriya. Age, unknown. Quirks, unknown. And then your occupation of an assassin or a hitman. You can answer him with option 2. I'm never going to talk to you, hero. You failed to save me. Or option 3. You can just sit there and not answer at all. I'm going to leave you with this choice, these 3 options. This will continue the option of your story. Either way, I'm going to do all 3 options. The 3 don't really affect you either way, but the major ones will come up soon. Those ones are going to affect the story the most. Hope you guys enjoy the first episode of this new series. I know it's kind of new, but hey, I mean, what can you do? I mean, I'm trying here. I mean, I want to say thank you guys for 900 subs. The video recently I just posted didn't get many views or comments or questions at all, so I won't be doing the Q&A. I really encourage you guys to participate in the Q&As whenever I post them, because I like talking to you guys and answering your questions on the comments and then on videos. And then I like reading your suggestions for videos, but I'm not going to be taking any more of the previous videos. Those videos are now null and void as of this video, so I hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you guys in the next video. Make your guys' choice. Choose wisely. Peace.